Welcome to Actualize, a podcast focused on the intersection of performance, ambition, and mental health. I'm your host, Rob Pintwala. My goal for the show is to not only celebrate success, but also shed light on the challenges and sacrifices that come with ambition. Actualize is brought to you by First Session. Launched in 2019, I started First Session to help you find the right therapist. First Session is purposely designed more like a dating website than a clinical website, as we're completely focused on helping you find the right fit the first time. My team and I interview and vet our partner therapists, so you can simply browse videos, see who you vibe with, and instantly book a session. Check us out at firstsession.com and see why more than 7,000 Canadians have chosen First Session to find a therapist. This episode is with Tina Luu. Tina is a longtime friend, and she's the co-founder of Fable, a lifestyle brand delivering products that transform how you eat at home, starting with better tableware. Tina is the head of technology at Fable, but she's also a mother of two, a partner, a daughter, and a sister. What you'll learn from this conversation is that Tina has an incredible work ethic. She's extremely independent and resourceful, and she's also a vulnerable, kind human. Tina shares a recent experience of what she calls stage 5 burnout, in which she completely was overwhelmed, both physically and mentally. She shares about how she pulled herself out of the burnout and what she's doing to lessen the chances of it happening again. I hope you enjoy this episode with Tina Luu. Hi, Tina. Thank you so much for being here today.
Hey, Rob. Thanks for inviting me. Great to catch up in person. Oh, virtually on the podcast.
Oh, yeah. Super excited to chat with you. Wanted just to jump right in. You are a founder, a mother of two, a partner, daughter. How do you juggle it all?
It's been challenging. I think I've been learning as I go these different roles. I think when I first started this entrepreneur journey, I actually already had Zeke, and I was then pregnant with my second. So it's juggling two things at once and wasn't very good at it back then. I'm a little bit better now, but it's definitely challenging. There's definitely moments where I'm like, why did I have children? Or why did I choose this path when I could just work at another company where I don't have to worry about employees or if the company is going to succeed or not? I grapple with these questions all the time, but I remind myself that this is probably more fun this way. So it's definitely a challenge.
And is this your first? I mean, this business is, from my perspective, huge already.
Yeah.
And had you ever done anything more entrepreneurial in the past before this?
No, definitely not. I think before Fable, I was kind of lost. I was working as a web developer at another company, but I wasn't being pushed or didn't strive. I didn't have confidence. I didn't really try to push myself. And it wasn't until I had children that I was like, oh, time is scarce. I need to use the time that I have when they're napping or when they're sleeping or when I have my free time to do things that I really want to do. And I think before having kids, I was just like, free time, I'll just do it later. And with children, there's never later. You just have to do it now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're the technology sort of lead at Fable. And I remember, probably met you around 2013 when I moved to Vancouver originally. But,
Yes. Yeah.
I remember you weren't a developer and you made a
No.
full career transition, became a developer, and then you started a company. What were you before you were a developer, and how did you make the transition?
Thinking back so long ago, I was just working in the restaurant industry. I graduated with a science degree and I didn't want to do anything with the science degree. So worked in the restaurant industry for a few years and taught myself how to code, did a boot camp class. And then from there, kind of try to figure my way through a web developer career. But back then I definitely had strong imposter syndrome. Coming from a background where I self-taught, I did boot camp in a male dominated industry. I was like, I don't know what, it was hard. And so I think that definitely contributed to me like feeling lost back then.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And how did this company start? I've never actually heard the story from you.
Oh, okay. For me, you can talk to Joe and Max about how they all started. We bought a house and we were moving into a new home. And I was unpacking my IKEA dishes that I've had for like years, 10 years. Moved across country with them, new apartments. And I thought, I was like, it's time to like upgrade, you know, like what's the next step? And I've always loved the pottery at like artisan markets, but they were just way too expensive. It's like ridiculously like a lot of money for one plate. So then I was like, okay, well maybe let's try West Elm or Pottery Barn. And it's like the style didn't really jive with me either. And like I was feeling like there's an opportunity where we can find something in the middle that still kind of has like a hand finished artisanal feel, but without the price tag and with the price tag of like a traditional retailer. So, and that's kind of how it started. But the impetus for like me wanting to do this was because I was ending my mat leave and I had to go back to my old job. And I was like, well, like I didn't really like the position and where I was then. And like, do I really want to go back and spend my limited time away from my family at a job that I didn't have any passion for? So then I was like, let's just do this. And so it kind of just that kind of kickstarted the exploration of what a dinnerware company is. And then we connected with Joe and Max, and that's kind of how we started.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Unpacking after a move. That's incredible.
Unpacking, yeah. And bringing like I was bringing plate I kept buying plates from like different stores, bringing into my book club, like, what do you guys like? What you guys don't like? So that was a very fun few years.
And you mentioned that you had imposter syndrome even back when you started as a developer and you like started in
Hmm.
a company. How is that translated into like just being at the helm of a startup that has definitely grown fast?
Yeah, I still have it, but it's not as like glaring. It's not like I don't wake up every day. I'm like, I'm an imposter syndrome. I don't like the title of CTO though.
Hmm.
Like for me, it's like I'm not a CTO because I guess I compare it to like a tech company CTO, and I'm like, no way, tech company CTO. But besides that, I'm way more confident. I don't know what changed in the last like 5 years, but I still have it, but I'm able to remind myself, no, like you've done great things and you're continually learning, you're continually improving. So like ignore.
Yeah. Ignore. That's a great
Ignore.
reminder. That's a great reminder.
But I think it's kind of also nice to like have that feeling. I think a lot of people like shy away from it and like maybe in the past they used to like dwell in it. Oh, I'm an imposter, like I don't know anything. But I think now it's like I use it as fuel to be like, what don't I know and what can I do to like get myself to the next level? So it is nice to have that feeling personally for me because if I didn't have that feeling, I'd just be like, okay, I retire. I'll I'm good.
Where is your sort of ambition? Where do you think that comes from? Or do you not even think of it as that? Like when you were starting this business and you were putting the work in initially and kind of I imagine you realize that whole like hey, this is quite a bit of work. Like what kind of kept you going and what did you draw on?
I never thought starting Fable would lead me here. Like I didn't think the success would be so grand and so fast in the last like 3, 4 years. Such a difficult question because like I just love what I do. And it's also kind of nice to have Joe and Max because they're always just like pushing you and striving for the best. So it's like kind of like twofold. It's a little bit of me loving what I do, and then also like my co-founding team just like always pushing to be the best.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Yeah, so I I worked with Joe and Max.
Yeah.
For any listeners, I worked with the other two co-founders for about 4 years, and they're incredible as
I'm
well.
the favorite, right?
You're the founding plate story. You brought everything together. As far as though your like I'd wondered if you can actually just talk about like where the company's at roughly now so people get a sense for like, when you talk about the growth and the success, like
Yeah, so where I always forget the years. Right now, we're in 3 countries, so UK, US, Canada. We have 2 retail locations, one in Toronto, one in Vancouver. We actually just moved a retail location from Gastown to Granville like a month ago. And then we also operate our own fulfillment in Canada. So we have 2 warehouses, one in Toronto, one in Abbotsford. And then we just recently partnered with the 3PL, like a third party logistics in the US to handle our like US fulfillment. So, and I think the numbers, this as of this year, we're in over 100,000 homes across the 3 countries.
great
So,
number.
yeah, it's kind of baffling.
That's incredible. Well, congrats
Yeah.
on that success. And that is a
Thank you.
ton
Thank
to
you.
manage, as far as what the, you know, current state of your role in your team. Like, are you managing several people now? Like, I heard for the longest time
Yeah.
that you're doing it all yourself. How does that look?
I'm still doing it myself. I'm still doing it myself. So it's now I don't have a team because we try to keep it very lean. And we have like more than 3 Shopify stores and an ERP system and all the apps mostly still it's on me. It definitely has been a process. I think if you told me 3 or 4 years ago that I would be doing what I'd like the amount of work I'd be doing now, I'd be very surprised. But in that time, I've been able to find like efficiencies and certain things to like manage these 3 stores really well. But it's definitely overwhelming because everything is on your shoulders and there's no backup.
My goodness.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's kind of what contributed to like we'll get into it, but like my burnout in like the end of the summer this year, it was just like a lot of things on me to do, and I'm the only one who really can do it. And so it just felt like a never ending problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
So,
That's a lot.
yeah.
Well, we can either talk about that now, or I mean, before you mentioned like your multiple roles, and that you've been sort of, I guess, growing into how to co-juggle rather these roles. What other roles do you even consider yourself like in as a person,
Like in Fable or
just
like
in your life,
outside of Fable?
Yeah.
Uh, a mom, uh, Jordan's reminder person. What else? A friend? But yeah, those were the only titles.
Yeah,
Sister,
yeah,
daughter.
yeah. And so as far as, yeah, maybe we can talk about being a mom, like you started the company after already having your first son,
Yep, yep,
and the second one was on the way. And how do you like how do you do it? I have one son and another one on the way, which I was mentioning before we hit record. I have a partner with a full-time job with great benefits and
yep.
maternity leave. How did you leave or not leave? How do you like juggle all of this?
It was tough. It was really tough. I think it was trying to think back. It was easy when it was one and when I was pregnant with Rafi because you just work when they nap. Or Jordan and I think he was working from home at that time. We would trade off. So he would do mornings, I would do the afternoons. definitely became more challenging when the second baby came. And I think we were also launching the Fable site, like, for the first time, doing a, like, a trial, like, beta test, and it was only a few weeks after I gave birth to Rafi, and I don't think this is a good idea, but within, like, a week of giving birth, I was, like, back on my computer coding the website, getting it all launched, and even Joe was like, should you be doing this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's okay, he's napping." And I'm, like, breastfeeding, and I'm, like this on the couch, trying to, like, get things out the door. But, like, it definitely was challenging as I think I did have postpartum with my second because I was working, it didn't give enough time for myself to, like, recover. 2 kids now, we were doing pop-ups, Jordan would drive Rafi because I was still breastfeeding to the pop-up, bring him to me while I quickly breastfed, and then he would, like, disappear and then come back 2 hours later. So it was, definitely challenging,
My good.
but you just have to, like, push through it. That's not really good advice, but, like, yeah.
What have you gotten back from the venture to date, in these last few years? Like I think you said you love what you do earlier, but like,
Mhm.
what do you get? What have you gotten out of it? And is that been consistent, or is it like do you keep getting more out of the company and who you work with and what you've created?
I do. I mean, there's definitely moments where it's like, "Oh, why am I doing that?" But I think the positive experiences definitely outweigh the negative, and it it just makes me so motivated and happy to be working on something that I'm creating with a bunch of fantastic and talented people and creating joy in people's lives through what we're doing. And I think that's just so fascinating. And I think the one thing I do like is I am in control of my own destiny because I am the founder to a certain extent. So it I can shape the company in a way that I want or like influence. So it's definitely when it is very challenging, I know I have, I guess, ability to, like, mold it to
Yeah.
what I would want it to be, if that makes sense.
Yeah, what might be some examples of some maybe like initiatives or directions that you've led the company in based on your passions and your what you care about?
Oh, it's mostly, like, technical.
Okay,
Really
yeah, fair enough.
boring. Like,
Your tech stack?
it's yeah, my tech stack, like, how am I managing 4 stores and all that stuff. It's not that exciting.
Well, on that
Um,
note, and you're still almost like, well, it sounds like you're still like a sole contributor, leader at the same
yes.
time. You don't have that many people that you can ask for help. How do you learn? Are you still like self-taught as far as like things that you need to like? Is there mentors or like consultants that you can call on, or how do you like continuously learn new things?
I Google. I probably should get myself a mentor, and I need to look for them. If anyone's listening, if you know a tech leader at an e-com business, let me know. I'm still learning. A lot of Googling, a lot of, like, combing through Shopify's, like, dev knowledge base to see, like, what I can and cannot do, and so it's sometimes you find little nuggets that then you then implement, and you don't need to pay for an app because it's free. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about your run in with burnout. And
Mm,
burnout's a pretty hot word in the last few years.
yeah.
Was that word always in your vocabulary before this happened, or how did you walk into this mess?
No, I did not. I obviously knew that word, but I never experienced it, and there's definitely moments in the last, like, 4 years where, like, it was emotionally upset, but I never to the extent that what I experienced, like, 2 months ago. I didn't even know that it was happening. I was away for a cottage and, like, we were launching things and there was so many things in flight. We were also testing a new app that kind of like made it even worse. But I was away, with cottage internet, and I'm supposed to be on vacation with my family and like things kept going wrong and I didn't realize it until like a week or 2 later that I was like, "Oh, this is burnout?" Like, I had, like, physical like, my legs were tingly, I had stomach pains, anxiety just the whole time because like, I can't really fix it, or I can fix it, but it's, like, delayed, and I'm, like, not there to, like, fully do it, and it was yeah, and I kept, like, waking up and crying, it was a lot, and I was like, "Am I going crazy, or is it, like, what's going on?" And I realized is I was probably burnt out. Yeah,
My goodness.
not not fun.
And
I thought it
so
was
did
sick.
you realize like on your own or like Googling again more or what did like how did
Oh,
you figure this out?
I can't remember. I think I was just Googling and I was just like, physical, I'm crying, it's work related. And I was like, they're like, maybe it's burnout. And I was like, oh, like, it sounds like it. Like, I can't even be diagnosed with, but it's,
I mean, it's not in the DSM, I don't think. I might be wrong, but
yeah,
I mean, I think a lot of therapists are familiar with it now. How did you work
yeah.
to so you did it click with you? Like, okay, this is what it is? Or were you in
Yeah,
denial?
I wasn't in denial, but it was more like, is it? Because I know, like, I started reading more about like the different stages of burnout. I can't remember what they are now, and then I'm like, "Oh, wait, was I in 4 for a long time, and I just kept it cool, and then now I'm stage 5, which is, like, the worst, and this is what's resulted in," and I was like, "Oh," like, it's interesting, like, when you look back at and you look at the stages, you're like, "Oh, this" what I've been feeling in the past when I was feeling, like, kinda shitty is, like, one of these stages.
Okay.
But I was able to, like, bring myself back, and then it was only the last time where it just, like, manifested into whatever the highest level of burnout is.
And how did you start to work your way out of that?
Oh, it was really hard.
Like you're a one person
It was
team, you still have all these things to do. Like what happened?
I don't know, a lot of crying. Really, I'd be, like, literally, like, finish a meeting, off camera, cry. Wipe my tears, go back on. I know it sounds so bad. Whoever's listening at Fable, it's not you, it's me. And, I would get triggered a lot by what certain people said, even though it meant, like, nothing. It was a really hard process, and I didn't know, like, how to fix it because I felt like the triggers that were giving me burnout was what I love to do, and, like, how do I, like, get myself out of it? Like, I can't just go hire another person, like, we don't have the budget for it. It's not, like, an easy fix. So it's like, I I don't know, I kinda lived with it for, like, a month or 2.
My goodness.
I know. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I also microdosed shrooms. And that helped me, like, it gave me like, when I was feeling really down, like, when I can't get myself out of bed, microdose, like, 50 mg. You can cut this out, I don't care, and it would bring me to a level that, where I was not great, but I was like, "I can deal with this." Like, I can get through the day. I'm not happy, I'm not great, but I'm not shit in bed and feeling sorry for myself. I'm
Yeah.
somewhat functioning.
Yeah. Or this
And I
is
did that for, like,
well, it's the
sorry?
second time at least third time that psychedelics have been discussed on this podcast. So it's all good.
Oh, yeah. Okay, great. Great. And I did it for, like, a month or 2, and, like, I was reading a lot of, like, articles and, like, podcasts on, like, how to, like, fix your burnout. Um, and then I found one podcast that was like, you know, self-care isn't the solution to burnout because your stressors are still there. It's like Jordan was like, "Oh, go to the spa. Why don't you take a day off?" And I'm like, "Okay, I could do that, but like I would just walk back into the fire that I was trying to escape." So there's like self-care and burnout doesn't really work in my situation, I'm sure it could work for others. So that was hard to try to like fix because if self-care isn't the issue, then it isn't the solve, then what is? And then it wasn't until well, I was journaling a little bit to like help me get my thoughts because it kept being in my brain and I kept like cycling through the same conversation, the same topics in my brain. It wasn't until like I wrote it out that I felt like, okay, it's on paper, it's like concrete. I acknowledge my feeling. That I was like able to be like, what do I do now? And it didn't really like click for me until like one day I woke up. I was just talking to Jordan about like how I'm feeling. And I was just like, you know what? Like my feelings and how I'm feeling right now is valid, but I'm not going to be a victim of this. And so, like, I have power, don't know what I can do with it to, like, fix it. Not even just as a founder or business owner, but, like, I have the power to change it. Either I leave, I quit, I find another job, or I start shaping my work environment so that, like, it is a bit more balanced and, like, I won't burn out. I'm not saying I probably there's a chance I could, but, like, I trying to set more boundaries up for myself
Yeah.
and, like yeah.
Any quick examples of, do you, you know, not turn like only answer emails or Slacks in a certain set of hours? What are
Uh,
some like high level changes that you made that the layperson might be able to understand? Just a quick interruption to chat about my company, First Session. Have you had a less than ideal experience looking for a therapist? There are lots of options out there, but it's hard to know where to get started and who to trust. My company, First Session, focuses entirely on creating the best experience finding a therapist. We vet and verify each therapist we work with, interview them on camera, and allow you to browse on your own time to see who you vibe with. You can see updated availability and book directly with them. No phone calls, no email back and forths. Run through videos and find the right therapist for you the first time at firstsession.com.
I started saying no.
Nice.
And it's so simple, but I started saying, "No, I'm sorry. Like, if I'm gonna do this, then what are we gonna drop?" And, like, I know it's so simple, but, like, I I don't know, as a founder, I personally feel like I have to do everything and support anybody who needs support, even if it's not in my domain, so it's like I'm always trying to, like, do everything, and it doesn't work out that well. So I just started saying no.
That's awesome.
And that was yeah, and I try to I snooze a lot of things. I try not to, like, get anxiety checking my phone and all that stuff, but I think the biggest one for me was just saying no.
You hear that talked about a lot, but it's way easier said than done to say no. I understand. And what was it like being a mother during this period of burnout? Like, was there like guilt
Oh,
associated or shame or that sort of thing?
I was, I was not very nice. Even to Jordan as a partner, there's just so many things happening that, like, I just wasn't very present for the kids or for Jordan, and so Jordan definitely did step up a lot during that time and, like, gave me space and was just there for, like, a sounding board of what I was going through. But I definitely do feel, like, bad at times, like, when I'm, like, really stressed out around the kids, and it's so hard when you work from home. Like, I don't have a commute time, so I'm not able to, like, decompress. I literally just walk down the stairs and I'm in the fray of things, but I haven't, like, disconnected work and switching it to, like, being more patient with the kids, so, like, that's something I'm, like, trying to work on, but it's definitely challenging to do it.
Yeah,
To do
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Do you think about the future much as far as what you might, assuming there's some sort of transition or evolution of Fable? and you kind of get the success that you're hoping for. Maybe you haven't even defined that, but like, do you think about a life that you like would like to be kind of living, or is it like in terms of like, how busy you want to be doing work, or do you just want to keep working on things you love and are passionate about?
Show heart. It's so hard because I love working. That's that's what my dad's famous saying is, "I love working. That's my hobby." He works all the time. Maybe that's where I get it from. I don't I think I definitely wanna, like, spend more time with the kids. I know everyone says that, and especially now, it's such a the age is so fleeting. So,
How old are they now?
6 and 4. I wish there was more time, like, I wish I didn't have to, like, work on my vacation.
Yeah, no kidding.
I need to practice my nose on that too, but
Maybe
it's
maybe one
yeah,
day you'll be able to hire someone that will be able to help you.
one day,
Yeah.
one day. Yeah.
And do you like have you experienced any unique challenges, or maybe in the early days with being like a female founder? Or did that even cross your mind, or is it not really that relevant?
I know a lot of people ask me that, and I don't think so. I haven't experienced anything, like, overtly, like, too biased against me, maybe sometimes there's comments like, "Oh, are you the technical lead?" No, but, like whereas if it was a dude who came in, it would be like, "Yeah, that's the technical lead." But it's things like that, but nothing too crazy, in my opinion.
Yeah. And do you have like do you think having children by the time you started the company helped shape the culture at your company as far as like, how you how what you expect from others with children, or
Not many team members have children. Oh, 2 recently just came back from mat leave, and 1 is on mat leave 2 is on mat leave, so we will see.
but Matt leaves and encouraged and that sort of thing.
Mat leave's encouraged. Oh, yeah, 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 mat leave's encouraged. We actually just trialed, summer hours this past summer, so it was a 4-day work week. Everyone loved it. I think that's also what contributed to my burnout
One
because it
extra
was
day.
5 days condensed into 4. Yeah, 1 extra day gone, and I was like, "That's 1 extra day I could be coding." And it was just condensed. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I just it strikes even just how you explained coming back to, almost like self-diagnosing yourself and like being like it's like you're extremely resourceful. When you learned how to code yourself, you learned how to get out of burnout yourself. There's probably many other things you learned how to do yourself. Like, do you
Yeah.
is I wonder where that kind of,
Came
value
from?
comes from, just being so self-reliant. And
I always tell Jordan this. I'm very independent, and my life motto is "Dependency is poison." Very dark, but I don't like relying on others to, like, solve problems. I'll just do it myself
yeah.
because 'cause I'm the only one who could, like, really know what I really want, and so I should be the one who is pushing myself to get what I want.
Do you think that was, like, taught to you from your parents, or was that stem from some, many levels of disappointment and having
Many levels of
others
dis
disappoint you?
we probably a little bit of mix of both. Like, my parents were refugees, from the Vietnam War, so they were always working, and they grew up in the war, so they also had their own, trauma and issues that they had to work with that they choose to ignore, and so, I think me and my brother were always mostly, like, alone growing up. It was, like, just me and him, so we were only there for each other and there for ourselves, really. I love you, mom and dad. Not that this
Yeah,
is like a harp on them, but,
that's real.
I think it's always been like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you find that there is I mean, so part of my job is, or used to be more so, I used to just interview all the therapists that we onboarded on my platform. And very key theme that I found in terms of therapists, especially in the Toronto area where it's much more diverse than BC where I live now, in culturally, and folks that are like therapists that were many of them maybe second generation immigrants or some maybe even
Hmm.
first, and just talking about like the expectation of being the child of an immigrant, even regardless of where you're from originally, and just like how much expectation that there can be on the children because the parents often fled or worked their absolute butts off to come to Canada and put it all on the line, and then they kind of just like can view their children as like, you better take advantage of this because we did all of this to like get here. Did you feel any of that?
No, interestingly, like my parents were not like the tiger parents. They didn't like put me in like math class or extracurricular and like anything. Maybe that's why I was like, maybe they should have pushed me, and maybe I am maybe more independent that way because I can't rely on other people do things for me. Or, but luckily, my parents are not like that. They're very chill, maybe sometimes too chill. But luckily, I didn't experience that.
No, that's, I mean, yeah, the independence part is it seems like such a strength too. Yeah, such a strength.
Yeah, I mean, luckily, I'm more introverted, so I guess it kind of works together,
How do you kind
maybe.
of recharge then? Like if you are now that you're sort of hopefully past the worth state, maybe
Yeah, yeah,
stage
yeah.
5 of burnout, you know, like
I'm
now,
like level 1 now.
yeah, you have a one
Level
back in
1.
the cycle.
Yeah.
How do you or how have you successfully charged when you do get a minute to yourself or 10 minutes or an hour?
Jordan yeah, Jordan actually takes the kids out because he knows, like, I like being home alone. So, he likes being out of the house, so he'll takes the kids out for a few hours, and I'm like, "Great." What else do I do? I'm trying to go to the gym more.
And do you notice like mental
Oh,
benefits from
and so,
that?
like oh, yes. One of the burnout recovery plans that I did was, like, I used to just sit in the chair, like this chair here from like 9 till 5, be back at it after the kids go to bed. And I just didn't move. And I was like, no, Tina, like you can give yourself permission to go for a walk for 30 minutes in the middle of the day. You can go to the gym, and not feel anxiety. So I'm trying to work out more, but it's hard to get into a routine, but and that's fine. Trying to get more movement in. What else do I do? Smoke a little pot.
It's legal. Yeah.
It's like, oh, that is true. And but it's I recharge by being alone. And then but also being more social as well, because I default to being alone and, like, being an introvert, but I actually get so much happiness and joy hanging out with friends and stuff, so I also need to, like when I'm feeling kinda lazy, I just need to push myself out the door because I come back feeling so much more fulfilled than if I stayed home and put on a movie and had my favorite snacks.
Do you get reach outs, or if you're out, I'm not sure if you're doing any kind of like startup-y events in Toronto these days. Do you get younger people asking you about, advice, or like what would you tell someone who's asking you about what it's like to start a company, how they might approach it, that sort of thing? Like, do you have any like go-to sort of wisdom that you are passing down to younger folks?
I think the one that comes to mind is, like, don't be precious about it. Like, precious about an idea, because you can work on an idea for years or however long because you get imposter syndrome where you don't feel like it's perfect enough to share, but I think sharing often and, like, just pushing out whatever project you're on frequently and, like, iterating because you learn so much about you what you're working on as you're sharing it versus I'm gonna spend a year working on this and then we're gonna launch it and then it turns out to be a flop. Whereas maybe you could have done a small test within the first 3 months, learned what you could, and then like evolved your work or your project based on feedback. So I think that's the only one.
Yeah. And what would you say
Yeah.
about people asking about partners and like co-founders? Because it sounds like pretty early on you were open to partners, once you discover this
Yeah.
kind of idea. And I know a lot of people want to keep it to themselves, or they're trying to find the perfect partner, or they don't go into a partnership because they're afraid of like the risks or something like that, or
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. I knew right away I couldn't do this myself because like I never done retail, never done e-com. I only know tech. Like I needed co-founders or partners that complement my skill. I feel very fortunate that I met Joe and Max, and they were also interested in doing this. And Joe was actually on like was looking into the dinnerware industry at the same time. So it was, I feel very fortunate, and like our relationship between the three of us has only just grown. So I do feel very fortunate that like our synergy works. So, because we didn't really do any like vetting.
yeah.
It wasn't like, oh, what is your work style like? How do you like to take feedback? It's like we had to figure it out through the years. And so it's a very natural relationship that we have now. And it's a great partnership
That's
between the three of us.
that's amazing. Well, that's incredible. Well, yeah, no, this has been an amazing conversation, and I appreciate you opening up about some of these. I think the burnout, you know, portion here is so valuable for so many folks that are on different phases of these different stages of the
Different
cycle.
stages.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
What would you like, maybe as a final question to wrap up, like what would your advice to be to someone who's maybe in that like fourth stage and like still doesn't really know what it is? Like, how did you just kind of
Tough
manage to
question.
get it? I know everyone's different, right? But like, I mean, you said you accepted you said something about accepting, like, validating what you were feeling, right? Like, how important was that?
I think it was very, very pivotal. I don't know why it just clicked in my brain. Because I think, yeah, maybe when I was going through the burnout, I was trying to justify reasons why I was feeling shitty. And it just kind of was like, no, you don't need to justify it. It is what it is. And you either fix it or like do something to shift it, or you can just leave. That actually was a thought that crossed my mind. I was like, I could just leave Fable. Like it like wouldn't be a great choice. I wouldn't do it now, but like I have the power to be like, okay, so it's not like I was trapped.
Hmm.
I'm not trapped. And so I think that was like, oh, okay, like I want to stay. Let's work through this and figure it out. But like I don't know if I could prevent myself from reaching that level again. Like I feel like it's just sometimes like sneaks up on you before you even realize. And so uh, I'm still kind of working on like flags that come up and what to do. So maybe talk to me in a year.
Yeah, we'll check in. Yeah.
Section. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's some power around kind of relinquishing the feeling that you can control it, right? Like if you think that you can control and prevent yourself from burning out, that's like an added layer of anxiety.
Yes, that is actually true. It's like can't control it, but it's okay. Sometimes you feel shitty sometimes, and it's also okay. You know,
Yeah,
just
I hear that.
yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This has been awesome, and I hope I get to see you in person sooner than later.
Yes, if you guys come back to Toronto, or I think we're coming to Vancouver Island this summer to
Awesome.
see family, so
Awesome.
we'll connect.
Okay, Tina. So it's fable.com right now, right? It used to be, you got the .com?
Yeah, Fable.com. Yeah, we got that tag.
Fable.com.
Yeah.
We're going to be able to release this. It might be right after Black Friday, but there'll be more sales, I'm sure, right? And where else can people find you?
Not very big on social media.
They'll find you working. They'll find you working behind fable.com.
I'm lurking on Reddit is what I'll be doing.
Awesome.
Yeah, just Fable.com, or if you're over in Toronto and want to reach out for a drink or a coffee, I am around.
That's great. Okay, Tina. Well, thank you very much. Have a great evening and enjoy your weekend.
Okay, bye, Rob.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Actualize podcast. You can find the show notes for this episode, as well as all other episodes, at firstsession.com/podcast. If you like this podcast, please leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.